guys, this is Derek, Lycan 101. Welcome back to the page of many things. This video is going to be the first official video for the set of videos in the playlist of the Kygreum campaign setting. First official one for the page of many things. And I decided this video is going to be about races. Now, I was going to do this video a long time ago, but then it fell to the wayside, and I thought it's time to bring it back. Originally, I was going to do each race was going to get its own video, and that's what the house is going to be. Each video is probably going to be like 8 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 at the most. And then I thought about it, over the span of time up to today, and I realized that's not the way I want to do these videos, because let's face it, there's only so many different things you can do to talk about dwarves, elves, and the classic staples of role-playing games and fantasy settings that would be different. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to give a brief synopsis of what each race is about, and try to keep these videos short and probably break this into 3 different segments, because I have, I think it's 12 to 18 maybe different races for just this one continent. So I'm going to talk about right now pretty much the core races from classic fantasy settings and what I do differently. So first, let's talk about the elves. The elves of Kygreum are called, in their own tongue, the Callimhros, which means the people of the trees. And I know it's a classic archetype of the elves love trees, they're the nature people. But the Callimhros, while they're called the people of the trees, they focus primarily, they love the stars and the mystery of the greater universe. So they have special ceremonies and everything based around the solstice and lunar eclipse, and most of their things are done under the stars, just to look up at the heavens in the night sky. Their capital is called Silvermoon and is located on the southwestern section of Kygreum in the Theseus Sea, right on the shores. And the city is a great spiraling ivory place with different channels that come in, different canals, little islands, inlets, little long, sleek boats that people can travel up and down and look at the stars by night. And it's close proximity to nature. Trees blend in with the architecture, and it's just like this quiet place where everybody goes, and it's really thought-provoking, and everyone has this deep sense of history and how long it's been there. And originally, the Callimhros were immortal, but they lost their immortality thousands of years ago, an event that they can't even remember. It's scratched from history. All they know is that they were once immortal, and so it saddens them that they are now mortal and they can't live forever. And they seek solace in the stars and try to figure out, well, why were we once immortal and now are not? And they take solace from the fact that stars, these great things in the sky, die as well. They also have, I tried to do this with each race, there's a special ability, if you will. It doesn't really do anything in terms of stats, but it provides something more about culture or background or better understanding. And in terms of the elves, or the Callimhros, they have what's called Dorosaru, which means nature's whisper. And what that is any time an elf goes anywhere in the world, really, that it has a natural setting, be it the Great Plain or something, nature whispers to them. It talks to them and tries to show them the importance of the land. So, for example, if they travel across the Great Plains, where a migration of animals occurs every year, nature kind of whispers that into their mind, and they just know that this area is what it's important, that that land is used by the animals to travel and migrate. Or if there was a great battle, for example, there's a place called the Plains of the Fallen, where there was a large battle during a section of time called the Race Wars. And if an elf went there, they would be able to feel the sadness in the land, all the death, the loss, the fear, just by being there. And it's nature's way of whispering to them and telling them about the horrors and the greatness of the land. And then we come to the dwarves, and the dwarves they are they live in the Hymettus Mountains in the northeast, and they're your sort of your classic dwarves. They forage and they live underground, but they also have spiraling cities above the ground within the mountains. They focus a lot on architecture. They love to make sprawling monoliths and things carved out of stone. So they will, if you go and travel deep into the high Hymettus Mountains, you will find great stone structures carved in the sides of the rocks, faces of dwarves, statues of dwarves in epic conflicts, just carved within the walls. Their capital city is called Hammerfell and lies within a volcano. And the center of Hammerfell actually uses the volcano to for, make its mining industry better and harvest the raw ore and then mine it and excavate it, etc. They're pretty much they have a long history of trying to get to the surface in the March for an event called the March for Light, which was a sort of religious exodus, if you will, where different clerics to the god of Castiel, the god of creation, said that we aren't meant to just always live underground. We should head towards the light. And they were like, well, what's the light? And then they made this mass exodus to the surface that took a couple hundred years. And they have this dichotomy of wanting to be underground and above ground at the same time and marvel at their ancient structures underground, but also at the new thing that they're creating above ground. And their little niche, if you will, their special little thing is something I pulled from the Dragon Age RPG Provings, where dwarves will fight and they're hardy fighters, but if they can, they don't always want to do bloodshed fighting against each other in terms of mass scale war, so they'll do small provings where you select the champion and then resolve your issues through that champion. It's kind of like gladiator fighting for the means of resolving personal issues or large scale issues. The gnomes, on the other hand, are completely different than dwarves or elves and gnomes that you can normally think of. The gnomes in Kygreum, in Callimhros, and specifically I should have said that all these races are on the continent of Callimhros in my world, and the gnomes of Callimhros are tech driven. They have the greatest technology of all the races put together, and they have knowledge of clockwork. They have knowledge of golems. They actually use that at a constant basis. They use them all the time, and they're kind of like the main form of defense. Their capital is Whistledown, and is actually an ancient um, pyramid-like structure that was there for as long as the gnomes can remember. They don't know who built it originally, but they know it wasn't them. Nobody can be quite sure who built it, um, but it's more and more research is being done into who built this giant pyramid structure that they now use as the capital of Whistledown. It has an interweaving structure, a maze-like structure, and is guarded by giant mechanical golems and clockwork sentries that the gnomes put together, and the gnomes profit by trade with the dwarves and humans and elves and all the other races and getting raw materials and ideas and creating these new machines for the future. And so they make up for their small stature by saying brains are mightier than bronze, meaning muscle. Not bronze is BRONZE, like the metal. So what they do is they are all tech driven. So it's not uncommon for gnomes, in my setting, to have clockwork little machines with them, or be inventing new things constantly, or even having a golem with them. It's just something that they do, and that's their special thing, is technology. Halflings are the great farmers of Callimhros. They have always been peaceful. They don't really like to fight, but they will if they need to, but they're just not really good at it. They're really small, they're energetic, they just go wandering around doing their own thing. And they're what they're really good at is farming. So the gnomes and the halflings have worked together for thousands of years. The gnomes provide technology protection in the form of golems, and old golems are used as farm machinery now, like to plow fields. And the halflings provide them with food from their giant, massive fields that stretch on forever. Their capital is called Wolfgarn, and it's its new name. It had an older name that was in halfling, but with so many different races now coming together to live in this capital, it's been renamed to Wolfgarn. And it has sprawling fields, rolling hills. It's a really quiet, peaceful place where everybody can be happy. There's music playing constantly. Halflings are always happy, and they travel a lot. They wander around because it's just part of their nature. They can't help it. They always want to travel and adventure. Their real little niche, if you will, their little side thing, is that they what they call handling and borrowing. Halflings always seem to procure items that they didn't have before from other people. But it's not stealing, because they always have the intention of giving it back. They just didn't know they had it in the first place. So they always wanted to give it back to you, they just didn't know they had it. So it's not stealing, it's called borrowing. And I always like to think of it as Jack Sparrow is borrowing without asking. So they're just holding on to it, and sometimes they don't even realize that it was yours, and they just think it was theirs. A common saying for halflings, if someone says if they pull out an item and somebody else says, oh hey, that's so weird, I have one just like that, and then they pull out an object and it's like someone's like, hey, I have two of these, where'd the other one go? And really the halfling just took it, but they were borrowing it. They were handling it and they were borrowing it. That's what halflings do. We're going to skip humans for right now because this video is getting a little lengthy, and we're going to talk really, really quick about the Adolinians, a race that I wasn't going to include at all in my setting until from the moment that I started DMing. I've had people always want to be reptile-like races. So the Adolinians are pretty much human reptilian humanoids, if that makes any sense. They're about, I don't know, 6.5, 7 feet tall. So they're pretty up there. They're mercs, and really, they like to fight. They're always trying to be dominant with one another, so there's a lot of infighting within their culture. They live in the south along the Golden Cliffs, which ring the western side of a region called the Ordos Desert, and that is a desert where it gets so hot that magic dies in the heat, and there is no magic in there. It's a magic dead zone, and people die constantly trying to get through the desert, so people just avoid it. But the Adolinians they live in the cliffs and the mountain ranges to the west, and they are small. They call themselves they divide themselves amongst their cities. So the two largest cities are called Sarn and Vec, and so if an Adolinian was from Vec, they'd be a Vecin, and that's how they would identify themselves. I'm so and so of Vec or Vecin, and so another person from Sarn would be I'm so and so, and I'm Sarnesh or Sarneshin, and that's how they divide themselves. In terms of leadership, they are led either in one of two ways. Either, and this is all based on city, they answer to a militaristic ruler, or they answer to a sorcerer ruler. So they have basically almost sorcerer kings, but there aren't really kings per se for the Adolinians. They're just like war chiefs, I guess you could say. And what makes the Adolinians really special is twofold. When they hit middle-aged, which is about 80, is about middle-aged for an Adolinian, they sprout wings, and it's called the gift of the ancestors. The Adolinians being reptiles, they believe they're descended from dragons. There are no dragons in Callimhros. There are drakes, but no one knows why there aren't dragons in Callimhros. They just vanished. And well, there is evidence. There's bones and stuff that people find once in a blue moon. So the Adolinians believe they're descended from dragons, and so when they sprout wings in middle age, they call it the ancestral gift, or the gift of the ancestors. And so they sprout wings and are able to fly. What the other thing that really makes Adeline special is an ability called the Mind Link, or the Brood Link. And what this does is if there are two Adelinians in a group, so say in a party of adventurers, there are two Adelinians, then they gain a perception bonus and a dodge bonus to their AC because they're seeing what the other one sees. They can transmit thought to one another simultaneously and basically see what the other one is seeing. So it's this cool, unique ability that really creates a really strong army. And if they had chosen to, a long time ago, march from the cliffs and try to take out some of the other armies, it would have been devastating because they can see from one another's perspective and communicate simultaneously from this link. So cities within the Golden Cliffs of the Adelinians are really quiet. There's no talking because people just talk back and forth with their minds. Um, but there's a lot of isolation between each city, and each city hates the other cities, so they're not really united in any way, shape, or form. There are these little patchwork groups of people that, when looked at as a whole, are a race of people. So this has been the first video of the Kygreum races, specifically the races of the continent of Callimhros. Part 1. We've covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races. There are a lot more to go. We have I don't even want to think about it. We have a lot of races to cover, and it'll be a lot of fun. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this set of videos, and this gives you ideas for what to do with your own home races. Next time we'll probably delve into the humans. We'll talk about the orcs, maybe the half races, the half elves and half orcs. We might do that, and then it'll be time to, I think, head to the Shadowlands and talk about the races that live there: the vampires, the Dhampir, the Tiefling, and the Makar. So yeah, probably 2 to 3 more videos in this series. I hope you guys like where this is going for the races, and I will see you next time. I hope you get a lot of different ideas for your own races in your own settings. If you like the video, let me know in the comments below. If you don't, let me know in the comments below. So I've been Derek, Lycan 101. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.